I'm Becky.
And I'm Lindsay, and we're here today talking about the small stuff. We've spoke before about big pictures and big dreams, but with those big pictures and big dreams, you need to kind of break it all down and get to the nitty gritty. And the small stuff does matter. Before we break it down there, the small stuff matters day to day to make your day better, like just noticing the sun shining, the little tiny things in your day can bring you lots of joy if you allow yourself time to recognise it. And it's about transferring that celebration of those little things into your world, whether it be performance or business.
Yeah, very much.
So do you want to start with performance?
Yeah, I think when we're talking about kind of looking at the little things, if I work through a song with a student, we learn it all the way through. And we get them used to singing it all the way through. And then we break it down. So when we break it down, we will literally start from the beginning. Well, this is how I work with them. We start from the beginning. We will get them looking at it line by line, talking about what they think the emotion is, what they think their view is, their perception point is. We might throw around different ways that you could perceive that idea or that thought to give them more context, more things to play with. Or it could be that there's an aspect of technique on a particular line or note that needs refining and tweaking. But ultimately we can break it down into those little bits, and we have to ensure that it goes from there to there, and it can constantly, we've said before, perfect doesn't exist. You can look at the little bits and find something new every single time to work on. You have to be careful though, and this is where it is not losing sight of that big picture. You do need to look at the little bits, but ultimately there comes a point where you have to say, that is where we are. And you can't go any further at that point. I
was mentoring a student the other day, and it was a total epiphany moment, because she'd had a performance, she'd gone and done this performance, and before, whenever I've met her after a performance, she goes over it all, and the first thing she talks about is, well, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, and she picks out all of those little bits, those small things that went wrong.
Everyone does.
Which everyone straight away does. However, she came out and she went really good. And I heard someone talking about me, and I didn't immediately go to, well, what were they talking about? Did they notice that I went wrong? I went, oh, they enjoyed it, they had a good time. And that shift in mindset for this 16-year-old to go from the negative to actually, she's worked on all the small stuff, she's put it into the big picture, and she was able to step away and look at the big picture and be happy with the overall. That was magic.
Yeah, you've got that old saying, haven't you? You can't see the wood for the trees. So you can look at things in minute detail and you can break things down, but you can lose sight of what else is actually going on. And every time you go into a bit of detail, you always need to come back. In voice, we talk about isolating different things, but ultimately, because of the way the body works, the way the voice works, you can't truly isolate it all, because everything works with each other, and it's got to be a whole thing. It's got to be a holistic. So we can talk about looking at things in isolation and breaking it down, but you've got to then put it back into the big thing, because it will impact other things that's going on. So look at, you break it down, you look at the small stuff, then you put it back in and see, does that work? Is it going to fit in with the big picture, or is it going to impact something else, and do I then need to, it could be that doesn't work, and you go, no, that isn't the right thing, or you go, oh, that does really work, but because that's now working, this is shifted from here to here, because it's a constant slot thing.
And it's about breaking it down into those small bits, and that you can do that constant slotting and shifting around, and that you can, what you thought were the important small bits to start with, something might drop off completely, or move, or not be needed, or it's a little tick, it's a little win that you can celebrate because you've worked on it. And all of those bits, like jigsaw puzzle, all the little bits, you keep trying it, putting it back in, doing it, putting it all together, and then you get the big picture. But when you're doing a jigsaw puzzle, you always refer to the big picture,
always,
to find out and just checking, well, could it be that way, could it be that way? So it's really important that you shift and change what those small bits are in your process as well.
And go back and always compare it. And we talk about it, we do it day to day with our teaching, with our performing. But that happens in everyday life. It's what you need to do in everyday life in order to not get overwhelmed, in order not to feel like you're failing, to look at those successes. You need to do it in business, because your business strategy will need that. It's the same techniques that you can use. It's just being used in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, even Dad, I was trying to sort out phone bills the other day. And you straight away go, oh my God, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. It's like, actually, no, I'm going to break it down, ding, 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 and then you deal with all the small bits, which then add up.
Yeah.
To the big bit.
I was doing it with phone bills as well, actually. I worked the other day, and I was going around and like, I've got to get quotes from all these different companies. And then I had a conversation with one, went off and went, yeah, I can't give you an answer now. Went off, started doing some research on others, hit a wall, was like, hit a problem, which then had to go and sort out for that. And then whilst that was being sorted out, the original person came back and went, actually, I can offer you this. And it was a better deal than we'd already had. So sometimes leaving things alone can be just as important, and giving yourself breaks and rest and time to walk away, reflect. The number of students I work with who were learning something new, and I know I'm digressing slightly, but it's not. We work on something new, and they get to a point where they go, I can't get it, I'm really struggling achieving this, and I go, that's fine, we call an end to it today. We put a pin on it, go away. It's amazing what your brain processes and connects without you realising, and then they come back the following week and they have it because they've given themselves that time to reflect. They may not even be consciously reflecting, but the brain is doing so much work without you realising that they can come back, and it's learnt, it's inherent. It's
how the brain takes on information, small bits at a time, isn't it? I was on a course just, they were like, how did you like it? Should we have done it the whole day? I went, no, the small little bits was great because the gaps in between allowed me to process and bring the information. And equally like that, I've had students with dance where they're really struggling with their choreography because they can't get any movement to go with this one bit, and they've got a battle between the movement, the music, and their idea and the process and bring it together. Sometimes we've just changed the music up. And I've said, right, do the dance again now, but it's this different piece of music, and then creates it, and it just opens up that creative flow. It takes that block away, it takes that repetitive buffering against the same problem, because equally, inherently, they're feeling that anxiety, I've got to think of something, the music happens, and then they can't do it. So if you change it up, change the setting, change where you are, you can get over those little hurdles easier as well.
I do the same in singing. If there's a technique and there's in a song they're hitting a wall on it, find a different song. They're learning the same technique, different scenario, changed it up, do all that. And yeah, quite right, it's what anyone can do, whether in personal, within business,
massively.
Within theatre, arts.
Oh, it's just life. There was a kid I was working saw the other day at school, and he was angry, very, very angry. And I asked him what the problem was, and his response was, totally inappropriate, all the teachers are ugly. I was like, okay. That wasn't the problem. We needed to break it down to all the small stuff. And he had totally disconnected with what was going on. We found out there was too many things going on in the room at the time. He couldn't process. He speaks English as additional language. He was finding it really hard. Where the paper was on the desk, he needed it closer to him to be able to copy what was going on. And slowly we did all these things, put things into place, broke it down into smaller chunks, because the small stuff matters. You can't just go, well, he's misbehaving. Yeah, the behaviour is an outcome of all of those small bits that have been missed, that haven't been considered. He did the work, he smiled, we high-fived, he got to carry on with another activity. Yeah. And it's the power of breaking it down. The small stuff matters. So I think the small stuff matters more when you're dealing with people as well, trying to train people and support people in your workplace, putting programs into place, launching initiatives, delivering training. You've really got to break it down to the small stuff there, because that really matters.
And when you're working with someone and someone's hitting at that wall or hitting a problem or is nervous about something or isn't liking something, get them to be specific. I do this so much with students. They go, oh, I didn't like that. Well, what didn't you like about it? Well, it's just all awful. Okay, that's a very big wide thing. How can we fix that? Because that's everything. So be precise, give me specifics. And then suddenly what they think is awful, they normally give me about 3 or 4 actual pointers, which they were like, I didn't like this, I didn't like this, didn't like this, didn't like this. 9 times out of 10 it's only 3. For some reason people don't like to do more than 3. At which point you go, well, that's not everything, which suddenly gives, you see the weight go, oh.
And they break, the whole posture changes, doesn't it? They do, they go like,
yeah, because suddenly it isn't everything, it is a few little things. And then you work through each one of those, one at a time, and you come up with a solution for it. Or you've talk about it to see whether or not a solution is actually needed, or is it that they're perceiving something that actually doesn't exist.
And so much of that comes down to knowing the people that you're working with and having that rapport and relationship with your teammates, your classmates, your team within your organisation. Sorry, lost track of words there, but never mind. Because unless you know them, you can't take notice of those things. You can't see the small stuff either, and they'll be giving you non-verbal signs. They'll be giving you behaviour change habits into what's going on. You'll be able to notice and then check in and pick it up before it becomes something big as well.
But this is where you've then also got to switch from dealing with the small stuff to looking at the big picture, and this is where you do need to flip it. Because it could be that there's nothing that's an issue with what's going on at work, or with what's going on within the song, or within the session that you're working with. It could be an external influence.
100%.
It could be they've got a bit of an illness that you're not aware of, or there's stuff going on at home, or there's something has happened on the way that has freaked them out a little bit. You just don't know. So you have to bring in that bigger picture as well, which is why when we talk about that building of trust, we always check in with whoever we're working with to see how they are, because we need to know that bigger picture so we can then see if actually what their perspective or their viewpoint is of something not working is actually something that can be fixed, or if we need to draw them back to what else has happened in their life that day or that week or even month
or years.
Oh yes,
or years. Something that happened years ago is still triggering and coming back. It's so important, because then that allows you to deal with it bit by bit and break it down. But until you've opened that magic door, until you've unlocked it, you can't go straight in for the small stuff, because if you go straight in for the small stuff, chipping away, it's really detrimental to building those relationships with people, because they just feel like they've been attacked almost, or I don't know, and under pressure to have the answer.
To stop from that, one of the big tips to stop that from happening is, if you can see something that needs to be worked on or look at improving on something, don't come and go, I think you need to improve on that. Talk to them, ask them what they think about what they've just done, because then it comes from them, and they are likely to have thought that anyway. Or they may not be aware of it, at which point you then work on the things that they've talked about that they're not sure about, and then you can ask them questions, leading questions, to get to the point for where you want to do. So you're not just going in and going, well, this should be worked on, this should be worked on, because suddenly they all go on the defensive.
And it's encouraging a mindset of people feeling like they can praise themselves within the workplace and within the environment. As human beings, we automatically go to the negative. We always go to the problem. Well, how do you think that meeting went? Oh, well, so-and-so didn't contribute very well, did they? Or this could have gone well, or my PowerPoint slide got stuck. Instead of going, oh, I felt really well prepared for that. I've done some good reading. It's flipping it and getting them to really express the positives, and you give them space and environment to be able to say the good things, because then once they've said the good thing, instead of going to a negative, they will then go, this went really well, next time I'd like to try this to make this evolve better. And it's that shift in mindset, rather than it being good and bad. It's, this was great, I'm going to keep evolving this.
Yeah, very much. We don't, I never say, I always ask first thing, what did you like about that, what went well? I never ask what went wrong.
No.
Never. I always ask, what would you like to improve? Because...
what would you like to grow? Improve can also be a funny word for younger kids, because they always think that it's not good enough, and it's almost that sometimes things don't have to get better, they need to diversify and change as well. So sometimes I struggle with younger ones of thinking that always improving, because sometimes they may have very much done their best and they're still not happy with the outcome, but it is the best that they can do.
So what would you like to do differently?
So what would you like to do differently? How would you like to approach that from a different angle next time? Or who would you include to help you next time? Who would you ask advice from next time? Where could you go to find that information out? Just opening it up rather than thinking it's a linear path all the time. So
I think summing it up is the small details do matter, but you cannot lose from the big picture, and sometimes you do need to flip it around and look at the big picture to understand the small things that people are seeing.
But they don't exist separate from one another. They are so integral, and it is that jigsaw puzzle effect. And I think anything you're doing, remember a jigsaw puzzle. Remember the process you go to do a jigsaw puzzle. and that's what you need to put into practice. Till next time.